Hi guys and welcome to my channel. It's been a while since I last uploaded, but I'm glad to be back now. Today's video will be a wild ride, as you can probably tell by the title alone. I feel like I need to give out a huge content warning for absolutely anything and everything you can think of, so consider yourself warned. The reason for all these content warnings lies in a worrying new trend that has swept over the TikTok art community and is now trying to squeeze itself into other art communities like Twitter and Instagram. What might this new worrying trend be, you might be wondering? Well, shortly put, artists are being labeled as creeps and weirdos for simply having a cutesy art style. This is a wild concept, I know, but don't worry. We will explore this disturbing side of the TikTok art community together after I thank the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. As you guys may know, I've been singing the praises for Skillshare on my channel for years now, due to it genuinely being one of the best online learning platforms out there. Thanks to their vast catalog of premium classes, you can learn anything from photography to cooking to running your own business to even drawing and painting. I highly recommend you take the class How to Successfully Publish a Picture Book on Kickstarter by the children's book author Mariana Lustosa. If you've ever dreamed of publishing your own art book, this class is an absolute gem. I also have a class on Skillshare myself too, where I teach my students how to draw just like me. I use the tips that I taught on my classes to this day, and I highly recommend anyone who likes my art to give it a watch. Skillshare is really affordable, so I highly recommend trying it. The first 500 people to click the link in my description can get 1 month free trial of Skillshare. Make sure you click the link fast because the spots always go by so quickly. Thank you again Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I'm actually really worried about posting this video because of the kind of people it covers, so wish me luck y'all. If I suddenly get cancelled next week, you know why. I really hope YouTube doesn't bury this video, but knowing what we're about to embark on, it might be too much to ask for. That's why I need you guys to help boost this video by leaving a comment for the algorithm, liking the video, and finally, sharing it to your group chat or that one other person you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel while you're at it. That way YouTube has no choice but to let more people discover this topic. Thank you in advance. Now, let's get into the video. In the world of social media, TikTok stands out as a place where people can get creative and share their content, from skits to fun dances to even sharing their own artworks. But just like any other big online platform, there are some glaring issues hidden behind the fun. I actually went over some of them in my previous video regarding the dark side of the TikTok art community. If you want to know more about that, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. But today's topic involves a more sinister trend that has recently emerged in the TikTok art community. Artists on there have been harassed, attacked, and ran off the platform for simply committing the crime of having an unforgivable art style, which is called the pro-shipper art style. When I first heard about this, I was very confused as to what it even meant. What is a pro-shipper art style and why is it bad? Well, let me go over what a pro-shipper even is, before we discuss why it can be offensive for some to be labeled as such. A pro-shipper is a fandom term for an individual who endorses or creates content that ships fictional characters together, regardless of if the ship is considered controversial or taboo. These ships can include minors in compromising situations, child ex-adult relationships, incest, and even glorified violence and SA. The reason why pro-shippers usually get so much backlash is their insistence on normalizing specifically child ex-adult relationships and sexualizing underage characters in their works, while avidly defending their stance. According to pro-shippers, they aren't doing anything wrong by depicting fictional children in inappropriate ways, because no real child was harmed when creating said works. They are adamant that the problematic works they create or consume are completely harmless because it's fictional, and that those who criticize said works are stupid and in the wrong. This is my biggest issue with pro-shippers specifically. It's one thing to have a controversial opinion on something and rolling with it, and another to try and shove it down others' throats or harassing and bullying anyone who doesn't agree with your opinion. Pro-shippers are infamous for seeking out anyone who has any criticism for works that depict children in disturbing ways and straight up harassing them over that opinion. This happened to me a while ago too, when I criticized a manga because it shipped a kindergarten teacher with a toddler, and I got swarmed by angry pro-shippers who insisted I was in the wrong for my opinion. They went on to harass me in my mentions by sharing toddler hentai for anyone to see, while mocking me for not liking such a predatory relationship. If y'all want a story time on that, let me know in the comments. But regardless, in these fandom streets, pro-shippers are infamous for being freaks and weirdos who judge anyone who doesn't approve of their bizarre interests in sexualizing fictional kids. Some go as far as calling pro-shippers who still continue to sexualize children even in their adulthood pedophiles. So you can imagine how offensive it would be to be accused of being a pro-shipper because of the way you draw. So now that we know what a pro-shipper is and how problematic they can be, surely this so-called pro-shipper art style must be problematic as well. For me to uncover the truth about this weird new TikTok phenomenon, I went into investigation mode and started looking around for this bizarre art style that apparently all pro-shippers have. I searched around for artists who have been accused of having this so-called pro-shipper art style and quickly noticed that they all have something in common. They all just have a cutesy anime art style, and most of them are either beginner artists or literal minors. This really confused me because there is no way that beginner artists and minors on TikTok are being harassed for having a cutesy anime art style, but I'm afraid it's true. To make sure I really understood what the heck was going on, I sacrificed myself by infiltrating the trenches of TikTok comment sections, and one thing became obviously clear. There is no such thing as a pro-shipper art style. A pro-shipper is literally just a term for someone who supports problematic ships. That's it. But somehow the TikTok art community decided to take it, twist it into something else, and label innocent artists of having a problematic art style, all the while the art style in question is the most generic cute chibi anime art style known to mankind. When someone is accused of having a pro-shipper art style, it's the same as saying that they have a quote-unquote predatory art style. A pro-shipper in this case is code for sexualizing underage characters specifically, and thus anyone who gets that label is accused of being a freak who supports said ships. It's definitely meant as an insult, but I can see why some beginner artists would feel like quitting art altogether if they got called something that genuinely disturbs them. I can't even count how many young artists felt demoralized and insulted by the commenters who accused their very normal looking art of being quote-unquote problematic. Some artists were chased out of TikTok entirely by accusers, even though these artists didn't have anything to do with pro-shippers and were actually against them. It never ceases to amaze me how the TikTok art community manages to come up with so many different ways to harass beginner artists. This whole thing seems like a fever dream because I can't comprehend how anyone thought it was a good idea to generalize such a commonly used art style and attach it to something like pro-shippers. I just hope that us discussing this topic and bringing more awareness to the injustices these poor artists are being subjected to can help start the necessary dialogue so that we can create a better environment for all artists out there. This Twitter artist said it the best. Quote, "Our TikTok is a very rancid community. There have been multiple instances where people criticize the shit out of an art style of a beginner and put the art styles in certain stereotypes like pro-shipper art style. Big head, big eyes, and small body is not the same as being a pro-shipper. It means you're still learning proportions. And drawing chibi as a stylistic choice doesn't mean you're a pedophile. How did people come to the conclusion that drawing big-headed characters with big eyes means you're drawing them as children purposefully and for ill reasons? It's not hard to be nice to artists, especially if they are beginners. Let's not repeat the cringe era of 2016 art community. Bashing artists does not help. We should hype up beginners instead of making them feel like quitting with comments that don't help them nor encourage them. It's especially messed up when you consider that some of these artists are children. We were all beginners once." End quote. On that note, let's hop on to the last part of this video. When I first heard about this topic, I was genuinely confused because I thought it was a non-issue. But after seeing how this trend got out of hand and beginner artists were being chased out of TikTok, I felt like it would be worthwhile to at least talk about it. When it comes to the whole discussion of if being a pro shipper is good or bad, that's up to you guys to decide for yourself. I personally dislike the ship dynamics that pro shippers die on the hill for. I think it's disgusting to sexualize underage characters, incest, and non-consensual relationships. That's my opinion. I also believe that sharing art like that could hurt real children because it helps normalize the predation that is being glorified in said works. Again, this is just my opinion. If these sensitive and taboo topics are covered in a non-glorified way in order to shed light on them or to tell a compelling story, then I don't personally mind them. As a fan of horror mangas and thrillers, it's common to come across stories with disturbing relationship dynamics, and that's totally okay. The issue I have with pro shippers is that they defend even the most blatant works that are literally just made and meant for predators to consume. They also love to attack and force their ideals on anyone, even if that means harassing them for simply disagreeing with them. This is what I've personally noticed is the case, at least online, but if you're a pro shipper and you disagree with me, let me know why in the comments. I'm really curious what you guys think of all this though. Would you feel discouraged if someone labeled your art as quote-unquote problematic? Has your art been called pro shipper art style? How did that make you feel? Let me know in the comments. Before I end this video, I want to thank my lovely patrons and channel members for supporting my content. Thank you to OK Ether, Ivy the Weirdo 162, Saint Raya, Lady Kimono, Selena BB, Brian Thomas, Galaxy Brain, Noah Smashy Smash, Ash W, Seiji Hito, Isabella, Me McLawn, and Glitchy Garbage. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Leave all your comments down below, and again, this is me signing out. And before I leave, all my lovely subscribers that are left, I might get cancelled for this video. It's a really controversial topic to talk about pro shippers because they have such a huge community online, and anyone who ever dares to say anything about them always gets like attacked. So I'm a little bit worried, but at the same time, I really feel like this thing has gotten out of hand and it needs to be stopped. People on TikTok, stop calling people's art pro shipper art style. Like, that's kind of rude, especially if that person is a minor or does not like believe in whatever the pro shippers are doing. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time.